All right, new details this morning emerging on the timeline that led up to the unprecedented FBI raid of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. We're learning that the FBI agents would not allow Trump's lawyers to watch as they searched his South Florida residence. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is now calling on Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice to provide answers, saying that they must, quote, they must do so immediately. Joining us right now is former acting U.S. Attorney General Matt Whitaker. AG, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning, Matt. Do you expect a comment from Merrick Garland? Will we get any answers?
I think in this case, he owes the American people something because, this is an unprecedented step, and many people have said that. But what I know, having been in that chair, is you do have some leadership that you have to exert. And when someone comes to you and says, we're going to execute a search warrant on the former president's residence, I think you owe it to the American people to take a step back and say, have we done everything possible to resolve this? And based on that timeline, it seems to me that the negotiations had not been exhausted, that there were other ways, less intrusive ways, like a subpoena that could have been issued if they really believe these documents were so important that they had to immediately be obtained by the federal government. And so it just seems to me that this is a very heavy-handed move by the DOJ and intentional to send a message and to maybe even put their thumb on the scale as to, sort of the midterms and ultimately possible Trump candidacy.
So what's the message? They don't want him to run again?
Well, I mean, obviously there is a faction within the Department of Justice, we've talked about it many times, Maria, that are anti-Trump. And, I think this is where you mentioned earlier about the White House saying something. We need to be assured. And it's very concerning to me that they're not assuring us that there is no political influence on this investigation because, I think the White House and Joe Biden, together with the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland, have to ensure that not a single illegitimate political influence was placed on this in the decision-making process because, if you think about Chuck Grassley and the whistleblowers, Jim Jordan and his whistleblowers, they're all saying that the FBI is politically influenced and that their investigations are partisan, and that's very concerning. And so the leadership needs to take an ownership of this issue.
Yeah, it's not just that they're saying it, we've witnessed it. Okay, we've been witness to all of this in the last 4 years. We know that there was this constant, upset and pushback on Donald Trump all along the way. These lies about him colluding with the Russians when it was all made up by his political opponent, Hillary Clinton. And now today he's facing questioning in a closed-door deposition for the New York Attorney General Letitia James investigation. She's investigating the Trump family businesses practices. The former president posted about the deposition on Truth Social. Earlier this morning, he said, my great company and myself are being attacked by all sides, AG Whitaker. I guess we've got Lara Trump with us this morning. And Lara, my question is they have not left him alone since he came onto the scene. What are they so afraid of? Why are they so afraid of Donald Trump?
Well, because he's not one of them. Donald Trump is not part of the establishment. He was a businessman. Don't forget, Donald Trump paid for his entire campaign until he became, the Republican candidate for president of the United States. He never took money from lobbyists. He never took money from special interest groups. Donald Trump cannot be bought. He is willing to lose money. He is willing to do anything because he believes in this country. They don't like that because there's always been this kind of cozy group in Washington, D.C., kind of on both sides of the aisle, if we're being honest. Donald Trump is not one of them. And he shook a lot of people up in his first term in office. They're terrified if he runs, he will win a second time. And a second term in office for Donald Trump, these people know the jig is up. They're terrified of him. But you're right. It's been constant harassment of our entire family, anyone associated with in the Trump orbit from the day he came down the escalator.
Well, I tweeted the other day, James, that if President Trump were considering or questioning whether or not to run, he just got his answer the other day with this raid. Because if this is where we are in this country, things have got to change.
Well, if you want to think about politicization, which this does seem to be a political motivation, was it to get him in or get him out of the race? I think people might have different views. But Matt, can you help us out here? As I understand it, the president's authority over classified materials is from Article 2, his power as commander-in-chief, if he says these boxes are fine to go to Mar-a-Lago while he is still the president, isn't that an executive order, and doesn't that govern those documents?
Yeah, the classified information is obviously ultimately for the president. If you think about how and why we have, even an intelligence apparatus, is so the president of the United States, as a unitary executive, can make the best decisions possible. And so the president, while in office, is the final arbiter and decider of what is and what isn't classified. It's going to be, if they're really ultimately going to pursue a criminal case in this recent raid, then they're going to have to look at what happened on January 20th while he, before Joe Biden was sworn in, as these boxes were being packed and moved. Right. Was the information contained in it declassified or not?
Mm-hmm. Matt, we will keep following it. Of course, we so appreciate your time on this. AG Matt Whitaker joining us this morning. Thank you, sir. All right, quick break, and then another round of migrant buses are headed to New York City's doorstep. And now Mayor Eric Adams is talking about retaliation. We're taking you live to Manhattan when that bus shows up. It's happening all morning long. Stay with us. You're watching Mornings with Maria live on Fox Business.